Welcome to Bible in the backyard, which is in the front yard. Here we are in the book of Deuteronomy, in the second chapter. And in this chapter, we have God kind of moving the Israelites, moving the people on their way to their journey into the promised land. And the situation, the location of where they are, as opposed to 38 years earlier, where they could have entered Israel through the wilderness, they now have to enter through the east. And they have to navigate all the nations that line kind of along the Transjordan, right, the 5 nations. What does this difference in approach actually mean for their mental preparation at this point and for what they're about to encounter on the way? It opens with the words, pnu lachem, turnabout. So they kind of have to reorient themselves for this entry into the land. And what does that say about kind of their expectations and any preparation that they have to do for the journey?
That's a great observation, because of course they've been camped in Kadesh Barnea for much of the last generation. And it looks like a straight shot north from Kadesh Barnea. Just literally walk up north. You'll be there in 2 weeks, even marching lots and lots of people. And you do go this roundabout way. There may have been pragmatic reasons, but I think there might also be a thematic reason, and that has something to do with something we talked about last week in Numbers 32, with the symbolic meaning of the east and the west. They have to encounter all these nations that are to the east. And of course, I would think that most importantly among them is Edom, although it's hard to be sure. And that's because Edom is Esav. And in the last chapter of Joshua, the evidence that Esav is not going to inherit the covenant is that he has the eastern lands, and the covenantal lands are the western lands. So there may be something very poignant about coming from the east, being there, maybe even conquering some of the lands as they did, but then crossing that river. Crossing the Jordan River seems to be the most important step. And if you just walk through the desert, not only is there no obvious border as to when you got into Israel, but you haven't made this great transition from the non-covenantal lands to the covenantal lands.
So perhaps kind of harking back also to Numbers chapter 32, and we have the 2.5 tribes who want to stay in the east, and Moshe's reaction is actually quite harsh. They just say they want grazing land for their cattle, but perhaps there's something there that's larger in terms of being part of the covenantal community, and his perception that actually by staying in the east, they didn't want to be part of the covenantal community anymore. So this is building on a theme of what east, what Kedem represents in biblical narrative.
Sounds right.
Thank you.